Welcome to the Art Lady channel. Today's lesson is on Arctic polar bears. This lesson was done with students age 6 and above. To make the polar bear, what we do is we estimate by just folding our paper and giving a little pinch the center here. And then we're going to place this circle, which came from a Folgers coffee can. And this is a 6.5 inch wide circle. If you don't have a Folgers can, just draw a 6.5 inch wide circle. But we're going to place it in the very middle here. Equal distance from both sides and equal distance from top to bottom. And then we just trace around it here, just like that. Okay, now we don't need our circle anymore. So our next step is to start the details of the polar bear. So we're going to find the middle of that circle now, and we're going to go above that to the left and above that to the right. And I'm just going to use my fingers as guideline because this is where the polar bear's eyes are going to be. So if you can go ahead and put your eyes there, and you want to make sure that one isn't closer to the other. So we're planning right now our picture where our eyes are going. So you plan just like I'm doing with 2 fingers to see where you're going to put your eyes. Are they going to be here, here, here? You want to have them just a little bit from the very center, above, one to the left, one to the right, and make it equal distance. So if you look at my fingernails, you can see those are going to be turned into eyeballs. So do I want my eyes here? No, that's too close. So by using your fingers, you can use them as guides to decide where do you think it's going to look good. Do you think I should have them way out to the edge? That's too far. So by using my fingers, I can actually visualize eyeballs where my fingers are going to be. And I think this makes a nice, comfortable place to put. Let's see, here's going to be the center. This will be a nice, comfortable place here. So I'm going to leave it, yeah, right about here. So I'm going to take my finger, put a dot, bring my fingers back, and right here where this finger was, I'm going to put a dot. So now I have 2 guide dots that tell me where my eyeballs are going to be. Okay, here's the very middle of the circle right here. So I came above the middle and I made a small dot on each side above the middle. So go ahead and do that now. So a dot is just our guide to let us know where we're going to put our eyes. And when you're happy with where you're going to put your eyes, this is what you're going to do now. I'm going to take that dot and I'm going to make a circle and color that in. And on this side, I'm going to make that dot and color that in. A small circle. Now I'm going to assess the picture to make sure it's equal distance from here to here. And then on this side, is this about equal distance? If it's off a little bit, that's okay. If it's off where you can adjust it, just make the circles a little bit bigger. So you can adjust it one side or the other. Now I'm going to go ahead and draw a circle around that. Draw a circle around that. And you can adjust and change your eyes and make them more realistic or more detailed, or you can turn it into a more cartoon version if you'd like. And you can do that later. But for now, this is a guide for where our eyes are going to be in our picture. The next step that I'm going to do is I'm going to make a straight line a little bit above the center. So here's my center fold right here. I'm just going to do a straight line. And then I'm going to come down and around. Watch me first. Down and around. And then I'm going to come around and up, making a pretty large size oval shape. Whoops, I've got something underneath here that's making me bump. There. So I shouldn't have those little bump lines. But I'm not worrying about them because I'm going to be turning, this is just going to melt into some shadow anyways in the end. Now, if I look at this oval shape, I'm going to find the middle of the oval. And I'm just going to do a straight line. And then I'm going to drop down diagonally and drop down diagonally. And I'm going to round these corners a bit right here. I don't want it to be really pointy. This is going to form the nose. I'm going to draw a long sideways oval And I'm going to use this graphite crayon or graphite stick, and I'm just going to color in. If you're using marker or whatever media, you can color this in a dark color. I'm going to lightly color this in, this nose area, but I'm not going to color in the oval. That oval is going to be left white as like a highlight. And I'm going to kind of round this a bit because I don't want the polar bear's nose to be perfectly triangular. So I'm giving it a little bit of rounded corners here. If you haven't finished coloring this all in, that's okay. Just stop and you can finish coloring this in on your own after. The next step is going to be the ears. So I'm going to come to one eye and I'm going to go up diagonally on the head and I'm going to make a small bump. So from my eye, I'm going diagonally to the right. I'm making a small bump, come up, around, and back down. It's almost like an N-shaped curve. I'm going to do the same for the other side. So I go to the left eyeball, I go diagonally up, I'm going to make the bump the same size, assess to make sure it's the same size or similar sizes. If it's not, just adjust the size a little bit. These will be lightly colored in as well. You do not have to push really hard, just lightly color them in. This is going to be the inside area of the ear. And these graphite sticks that we're using today are water soluble, so this will just turn to some dark paint anyways. Now I'm coming around the ear. I'm leaving about a finger's space. And I'm going to come around the inside of the ear, leaving about a finger space and coming around the inside of the ear on this side. My ears aren't exactly the same size. If you want to adjust yours a little bit, you can. If yours aren't the same size either, I'm just going to shade that in a little so when I paint it, this will just melt when I add water to it. It'll just adjust and make it a little bit bigger. So now we have the actual polar bear head. We're going to come down now at the very bottom of our paper. So I'm going to scoot this up so you can see it a little bit better. And at the very, very, very bottom center of my paper, so I'm going to find my nose and drop down. I'm going to put my hand, I'm leaving a little bit of space right here. And, well, actually I want to do it about halfway. So the circle to the bottom of the paper, find a halfway line. Find the halfway, give a guideline. And then I'm going to put my fingers down here, and I'm just going to come down and around, say 3 fingers. Down and around the 3 fingers. And go almost to the bottom of the page. Down and around. And I'm leaving about a finger at the bottom here. The thickness of my finger on the side. So I lay my finger to the edge of the page, and I want to leave a space. From here, I'm going to go over and over. I want to go over about 3 fingers width. So I'm placing 3 fingers, and I'm going to put a little mark on this side. And I'm going to do the same. 3 fingers. It should be measured near my knuckles, not at the tip, because that'll give you a smaller area. So 3 fingers and mark. Then bring it over. Okay? Now we're going to make a little bump up. It's a curve. It's going to come up and back. These are his front paw, up and back. It's like an N curve. And come right to the edge. From there you can add 1, 2, or 3 lines. Actually 2 or 3 lines depending on how big this is. I've added 3 lines. This is just the area for his toes, his paw area. You can do 2 or 3 little lines inside here. These paws here have 2 lines. And this one I did here had 3 lines. 1, 2, 3 inside. Now we're going to come up around and back down, okay? So I want to get some guidelines before I just go drawing right around the whole bear. I don't want to come real close to my edges, so I want to kind of come in. So I'm going to place at least a finger and do a line. This is probably 2 fingers wide. So I need to leave some space on this side, and I need to leave some space on this side, so I'm giving myself some guidelines. And then I want to leave some room up top for some definition of icebergs and cliffs, ice cliffs. So I'm going to go up probably 3 fingers from here, put a little guideline. And now what I'm going to do is just slowly curve around. Before you do this, visualize the line in your mind first. So think about the line. Look at it and see it on your paper before you actually make the line. So I'm visualizing now, it's curving round and connecting. So as I visualize it, now I'm going to slowly make that line, curving around and connect. If you go slowly, you'll connect nicely. But visualizing it first really helps you when you make your line. You can see where it's going. It's kind of like a dotted line that you're following. If you visualize it in your mind first, the nice curve. Now our next lines, we're going to slope in, and it's going to come down to here, to his paws. But don't have it end right at the edge of the paws. We want it to come in a little bit. So I'm going to come up. So here's the end of my paw. Let's make sure you can see it here. Here's the end of my paw. I want my line to come like here. So this is curving round. This curves in. This curves around, but then it's going to come, my leg is going to come out from here. So I don't want it ending at the exact edge. I just came in a little bit. Now this line is going to slope around his body and then come down. Watch me first. I'm going to do it so you can see the nice curve. So I'm visualizing it curve around and then come down. Okay, so it's going to come here and around. I want it to come around and slightly go down in. Now this line here, I can erase because I had it kind of diagonal. So I can erase that one later. This shouldn't, I made it a little bit too diagonal. So I'm going to visualize around and then come down. Visualize around and have it meet this line. Okay? So go slow. So we have a little bit of a curve here going. Around and then down. And that's our front view polar bear. Now, because we're using water soluble, I'm going to show you how to melt this. We're going to use just a bit of water. And this is the water-soluble graphite stick. I'm just rinsing my brush to make sure it's clear. And after I do that, I take all the puddles off of my brush. And I'm just going to bring my brush in and touch the edge of the line. I don't want to go out this way. I want to bring my color into the bear so that this forms like a shadow of the bear. So I bring my water to the edge and then I carefully touch the edge, and it's going to pull the color from the edge into the bear. So I barely touch this edge with my water and I bring it into the bear. I don't want to bring my color out of the bear. Okay? When you make sure this is a key part of this, is to wipe your excess water on the edge of your dish first. If I don't, then when I do this, I'm going to have huge puddles on my paper. and I don't want puddles on my paper. Okay, so that's how we're going to melt our edges into the bear. It'll give like a shadow. Barely touch the water and continue bringing it into the bear. Into the bear, I bring my color. I barely touch the edge and bring it into the bear. Just like that. And you're going to work around the whole bear. I'm going to show you how I blended in my areas for the polar bear, the lines. Once I've completed the outer edge, blending all in to the polar bear, I then went to my nose area and I melted the nose area and blended that in. Then I went to this muzzle area here, or snout. I took the outer edges of the snout and blended them into the face. Then I took the outer edges of the face and blended them into the body. So I don't want to bring this line into the face because then it will make a shadow on the edge of my face that I don't want. I want to create a depth so that this bear looks three-dimensional. So it looks like his snout is closer to me and the face is farther from me, and then the body is even farther still from me. So the body is way in the back, the head, and then the snout is closer to us. By tracing or blending in the edges of the ear into the body, the ear comes out. It makes the ear look like it's in front of the body. So that creates an illusion of depth. So you just want to remember, if things are closer to you, you don't want to blend the lines in. You want to blend it into the other part of the body. So the snout is left clear, blended into the face, and then the face lines are blended into the body. I also melted my eyes here. I just added a little bit of water and kind of blended there. Now I'm going to decorate my background. And you can decorate your background any way you want to. I'm going to create some Arctic, like ice cliffs in the back, and maybe some icebergs down here at the bottom. And I'm going to be using some beeswax crayons here, and I'm going to use white, and I'll show you those steps right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw the cliffs in, and I'm just doing some pointy mountain cliffs here, and it's kind of jagged zigzag lines. I don't think you can pick it up on here. Well, if I hold it sideways, I think you can. And then I'm going to go ahead and with my crayon, I'm just going to do lines coming down the cliff. And I'm going to push really hard. So I'm tracing my zigzag line and I'm coming down, pushing really hard. Trace my cliff, zigzag. It's kind of A shape. And then lines pushing really hard. You can hear how hard I'm pushing. Coming down. The zigzag cliffs, these are the ice cliffs of the mountains. And pushing down really hard. Okay? And so I'm going to push really hard, and I'm going to color patches. This will be the ice patches coming across. And then he's going to actually be standing on an iceberg or the ground. And so I'm going to push really hard, pushing really hard with white. Let me see if you can see. You can kind of see the way I'm doing my paper, doing my hand. And that's important, the direction of your crayon marks, because then when I'm going to add the watercolor, you'll be able to see. You can see some of it here. It's not picking up a lot on the video. So this is all horizontal lines back and forth really hard with this crayon. And like I said, these are beeswax. So horizontal lines back and forth. And I'm kind of just going back and forth, almost zigzaggy. And I'm going to do this several times, back and forth, back and forth. I'm going to do it up here too. Make sure right under the cliffs. back and forth, back and forth. And now I'm going to go ahead and add my paint to this. And I'm just using some pan watercolors. I'm going to dip in and choose, I'm going to do purples and teal values. Okay, so across, horizontal. So now my strokes, as much as I can, I'm going to go ahead and do, I guess it really doesn't matter. I'm just going to cover this. And wherever I missed, the paint is going to absorb into the paper. Be real careful over in here on the edges and come up real close and careful. And you can see how it's resisting. Wherever I missed with crayon, it's really absorbing into the paper. And then I'm going to do the same on this side. I do want to change color. As I get toward the foreground here, I'm going to use more purple. As it's closer to me, I want some beautiful violet. So it goes from teal to violet, just to give it this a little bit more color. And I'll blend that in. Let's get down here with some violet, and then I'm going to do the same on the other side. And for the mountains, I'm going to use combinations of teal and violet as well. Okay? And then when I'm done with that, I'll show you what it looks like. Now that I finished both sides, right here, I have nice bright purples and teals down at the bottom. Now, to show aerial perspective, meaning the farther things are in space, or meaning in our landscape or our environment, the lighter they are appear to us. So I want this to be, I'm going to water this down. I want my mountain areas to be pretty light. So I'm barely using any color and just a hint of water and barely touching my color here. And I'm going to put that in for my mountains. I'll go up one side a little bit darker. And then I'm going to put mostly water right in here. And you can see those lines, my diagonal lines. Or my lines that came down, yeah, they came down vertical and diagonal on these cliffs. Right up in here. Oh, that's a little bit dark. Let's add some more water to this. Right here. Now, it's up to you for your sky, what color you want to use for your sky. And I may use some yellows, like a warm day, because I have so much blue down at the bottom here. And if I did too much blue and blue sky, it'll all just blend in. If I want to define them with a little bit darker color on the edge, maybe I could put a little bit dark here and do some darker streaks here at the base. Right in here. Just some dark streak. Maybe up one side a little bit dark for shadow. And if you do a dark shadow on one, you keep the shadow on the same side, so all on this side. A little bit darker. There. And now I'm going to do like a light, nice warm, barely any yellow sky. But I'm going to change out my water and wash the brush before I do my sky. And this will be a nice sunny day. So I'm putting quite a bit of water. Yellow's pretty intense. And I'm doing it up at the top. Bright. Then I'm washing my brush and using just water on the edge to blend it in a little. Right in here, just water. I'll put a little bit more paint. Make it fluid a little bit more. And then as it hits the mountains or meets the mountains, it's not as bright. Just water. And I'm going to add just water in here and barely touch the color. This isn't watercolor paper, so we're getting a little soggy, but when this dries, it'll look pretty. And there we have our polar bear in the Arctic. And I hope you enjoyed the video on Arctic polar bears. And if you have not already done so, I would love it if you would subscribe and let us know in the comments how you did on your Arctic polar bear.